please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, thank you very much.
I know, I'm like,
It's like, really?
all right, Cherry, can you please do roll call?
Todd Clemens,
Excused.
Erica Connor. Here. Mary G. Moore,
Here.
Andy Mankey,
Here.
Art Schneider,
Excuse.
Greg Wirtz,
Here.
Jeff Wokel,
Here.
Joe Warner,
Here.
Sherry Winchowski, here.
Okay, this is an open meeting and has been noticed as such. Citizens' comments? Nope. Okay. Student rep report.
So you guys know this is our last rep report, so we'll make sure to draw it out as long as possible for you and give every detail. But starting with McGuanago High School, the German students from all levels headed to UW-Madison for our 28th annual German Day, and we usually do really well at that competition. And this year the theme was Miteinander, Füreinander und Beieinander, which was, it kind of encompasses bringing different cultures together. And I promised Herr Weber I would speak a little bit of German, so wir haben den ersten Platz gewonnen. We won first place, which was really exciting. And we got a perfect score on our skit, and we also were the #1 school for altogether for poetry reading and the skit and for spelling. So that was really cool.
That's sehr cool.
So a couple things from Parkview. One of them is that there was is going to be an art show at Parkview Middle School in the upcoming month, and then into June. And there's a flyer on the back of the this rep report if you want to take a look at that, just to know the dates and times. And then the second thing is Miss Wildeman and Miss Peterson both took 75 Parkview 8th grade band and choir musicians to a musical showcase festival in the Wisconsin Dells on April 28th and 29th. And both the band and the choir received superior ratings, which is the highest rating that they can achieve, which is absolutely awesome. And in fact, the students were able to celebrate their success and their accomplishments with a fun day at the Kalahari Resort, which was absolutely phenomenal. And then at Rolling Hills Elementary, Rolling Hills Elementary students are participating in a one book, one school reading journey. And they have been reading the Boxcar Children, the first book of that series. And as part of the kickoff in April, the teachers acted out the first chapter, and then they had a trivia day twice this week. Each of the students formed into clubs, and then we'll wrap up the book with an animoto video about the journey and reading together, decorating their own boxcars.
The students at Eagleville Elementary partnered with the PTO and the Conjunto Latino students from MHS to celebrate the 3rd annual Dia de los Niños. The MHS Spanish Club students designed lessons and activities to celebrate the day with the kids, and they did things like read Spanish stories, read letters from their sister's school in Guatemala, and played I Spy games using only Spanish language. So that was really educational for the kids. The 5th graders at Prairie View Elementary are going to be going on a field trip to the Milwaukee Art Museum tomorrow, and they will be involved in a writing and art tour. And we have some stars in our midst, it looks like. The Section Elementary students had a huge school-wide event on Thursday, and the event focused on technology and engineering with a Star Wars theme. So there's some nice pictures of some of our board members to look at in there, and there's a lot of information on that for you guys to take a look at.
And then wrapping it up at Big Bend, Miss Masters' kindergarten class had a STEM activity where students were able to construct a house or a nest out of toothpicks and jelly beans, and they had to fit it so that they were able to cover a peep. There's actually a blog that you can go to, and the link is attached onto there. It's actually very interesting. And then Clarendon Elementary School, Miss Bradford's 2nd grade science classrooms have been learning about rocks all year, their properties, sizes, and how the rocks are used, and are ending their unit with a kindness project. So students actually and their families will be going to an area park and then placing them randomly around the park, hoping to brighten somebody's day. And then that is the end of the rep report.
All right, thank you.
We're just gonna leave now because we're done, right?
That's,
No,
You gotta sit
we're gonna sit here.
so we do want to make sure that we recognize both Emily and Max for an outstanding job this past year. I think we can all agree that they have been some of our best reps that the school board has had, and they have done a real good job of providing input and sharing information with us. But what's most impressive about them is outside of this activity, they excel not only in their academics, but also their extracurriculars. And I'm confident that they have an extremely bright future ahead of them as they go to Carroll and St. Leo. But I was just, I think Jeff and I were both at the IT Academy board meeting not too long ago, and got a chance to hear Max speak about his experience there. Outstanding. Also was at the athletic scholar athlete banquet last week Wednesday, and Emily was recognized there. I can't remember what
The
was.
Marine Corps Award.
Yeah, the Marine Corps Award. So just two outstanding individuals. We have a small token of our appreciation here for you guys, a card with a small gift card.
Nice job, you two. Thank you very much. Well done.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. This has been an awesome experience.
Yeah, honestly, it's unparalleled to anything that I've done. So I really appreciate all the opportunities you've given both of us to speak. It's greatly appreciated.
Make us proud, you two, okay? Come back and see us.
Absolutely will do.
And then we have our next two board reps, student reps, here at the meeting tonight. So if they want to just come forward and introduce yourselves, ladies, come on up.
You guys can sit at this table.
And I think you'll find that these two young women will also be equally impressive. So who wants to go first? Who wants to introduce themselves first? Miriam, you want to go first? Go ahead.
Sure, I'll go first. So, hi, I'm Miriam.
Oh, the
I'm-
first thing you're gonna learn is you have to talk into the microphone.
You can move it. Yep, just move it.
Okay, hi, I'm Miriam. I'm a junior this year at the high school, and I'll be a senior next year. I'm involved in quite a bit of extracurriculars outside of school, namely marching band, debate, and robotics is what I tend to specify in, and I'm really glad that I'm going to get this opportunity to be a student rep next year.
I am Haley Lipinski. I will also be a senior next year. I participate in varsity girls golf and varsity soccer. And at school, I'm in student government. I'm the class president. Just one prom queen. It's pretty cool. So.
She's well-rounded.
Yeah, that's me.
Congratulations.
Yeah, welcome,
Yeah.
ladies.
All right, thank you.
Welcome aboard, both of you, and we'll see you.
Yeah.
We have a meeting. I can't remember. Do we have a meeting scheduled for the transition?
Yeah,
18th.
18th? Okay, so I'll meet with you guys on 18th, and then our next board meeting is on the, someone had 14 to, what,
23rd.
22nd.
22nd, there we go.
Just to let you know, you have big shoes to follow, because these guys really excelled and made this position something more than it has been. I mean, the input that they have given us during the meetings is far beyond whatever any other past reps have done. So learn from these guys. We want to hear your opinions. These guys have really helped us with a lot of decisions. So great job.
Great job.
All right.
And Art always wanted to be a prom queen. He did.
But thanks for coming tonight, ladies.
Thank you. All right.
And then, Mary, just a couple of notes real quick in the folders at your table. We have an updated certified staff changes, which we'll get to in a bit. We have an updated administrative appointments, which includes the name of the new associate principal at the high school. And then I did bring some more information about that new superintendent evaluation. And I know some of you have seen that before, but we have some new board members that have not seen it, so I'll explain that later.
Okay. Craig, did you have something you wanted to say? Real quick.
Haley covered it. I
She
didn't
did?
know if she
Good.
would
All right.
tell everybody, but I was going to tell everybody that she was prom queen.
Alrighty, there you go. It would have been announced with or without you. All right. We need approval of the minutes from April 24th, 2017. Do I have a motion?
I
So-
move.
Second.
All right, motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. All right, motion carries. Next up are action items, retirements, resignations, and appointments.
So we're going to go to the updated list in your folder. And we do have 3 resignations tonight. Cody Christensen, Fayed at Eagleville and Prairie View. Trisha Erickson, early childhood specialist or teacher at Clarendon. And Michelle Garcia, 4th grade at Big Bend.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept those resignations? Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who wants it? We'll give it to Andy.
No, I don't want them to know I'm here today.
Art's very sensitive.
Okay, the second's gonna be Andy. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, next up, appointments.
Several new appointments. Courtney Hetznecker, kindergarten at Clarendon. Emily Madden, kindergarten at Prairie View. Amanda Northard, project Lead the Way Computer Science at Parkview. Jessica Patton, kindergarten at Prairie View. Linda Troger, chemistry at Mukwonago High School. And then we have a number of people that are already with us. They were on 1-year contracts, and now they've done such a nice job that we're going to extend those contracts. And so Caitlin Beinleck, 1st grade at Clarendon. Megan Johnson, counselor at Clarendon, Eagleville, and Rolling Hills. Claire Kamak, special ed at Big Bend. Nicole Linsmeyer, social worker at Parkview and the high school. Kira McGivern, 3rd grade at Prairie View. And Ashley Eaker, Fayed at Parkview. And then finally, we have 1-year contracts. Dawn Quakelar, 4th grade, job share at Prairie View. And Ben Warashay, band and general music at Big Bend and Clarendon.
Okay. I have a motion to approve those.
Oh, me.
All right, Art's gonna approve them.
I'll second.
Cherry's gonna second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. All right, motion carries. Next up, literacy staff development plan, 3rd through 6th.
So Nick's here to explain that. You've seen that plan. We talked about it last meeting, and we're looking for approval on that. If you have questions, Nick's here.
So that's on page 7. At this point, we're looking for final approval on the writing piece that'll be implemented in the fall of 2017, this coming fall. And then we'll come back and talk next winter about the reading piece, which will phase in the next fall.
Just quick question on the development plan days. Are they specified when, or how's that gonna work? Because you just got June, July, and August.
Well,
half-day.
this is just for you. I just simplified it. So the all of this information has already gone out to the teachers.
Okay.
So I've the way that I've done this, because I would have preferred to establish these dates in January, and obviously it's May. So I've scheduled 2 to 3 options for teachers to choose one of 2 or one of 3 options. It also gets the sizes of the sessions down a little bit, so we're not trying to train 100 people at once. But those have already gone out to staff. They're just filling it out via Google form. And I think we have nearly everybody already signed up. So.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. All right, motion carries. 17-18 capital improvement projects.
Was there actually a motion on that? I don't think there was a
Oh,
motion on that.
Sorry, did we get way ahead of ourselves here?
I would like to make a motion that we
We're
approve it.
moving too fast.
Ally, a second.
I got it. All right.
We're
all those
over
in
an
favor
hour.
say
It's your
aye.
fault now.
We're trying to get into an hour. I'm trying. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Okay, motion
Thank you.
carries. All right, 17-18 capital improvement projects.
So last meeting, Brian Groshek presented the projects for this coming summer here. Just looking for your approval. Were there any questions, or if not?
Any questions?
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
She got it. Jill got it. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. 17-18 school lunch prices and student fees.
Same deal there. As we talked about the April 24th meeting, you have the list of the 2017-18 proposed student fees. Everything was held constant there with the exception of lunch prices were going up 10 cents. And then also the introduction of the fee for the technology partnership program.
All right. Any questions? Yep.
I would like to make a motion we approve.
I would like to second that one.
All right, Andy's a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. All right, motion carries. CISA 1 contract.
So we've talked about CISA 1 and our services with CISA a number of times. We do sign a yearly contract with them. And if you look on the introduction to the contract is on page 11, the signature page on page 12. But on page 13, you can see the actual services that we contract with them. And actually, we're down a little bit from the past couple of years. So looking for approval on that contract.
Is a contract with CISA required by
No.
the state?
If we're going to utilize these services, yes.
Yeah.
Do you
Well, right,
have to do it? No.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the CISA 1 contract?
I so move.
All right, do we have a second? All right, I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. All right, motion carries. On to committee reports. Learning Committee, Literacy Staff Development, 7th and 8th.
So if you look at page 14 of your packet, this is the next step in our literacy material. So this is for grades 7 and 8. Just to give you a couple of highlights, this group and I have been meeting almost monthly since the beginning of the school year to start shifting some instructional practices at Parkview Middle School, and they've invested a lot of time and a lot of energy into how we can improve literacy instruction at the middle school level. To help us, we've been working with Rhonda Schoonover. She's an assistant professor at Cardinal Stritch, works a lot in K-12 literacy, and she's really done a great job helping to facilitate some sessions with those teachers, really moving away, again, as I've said many times before, from a teacher-directed, whole class instruction-focused model to something that includes some more student choice, some elements of personalization, and just also getting more students more motivated to read. So I think when you picture kind of an old school approach when we were in school to middle school language arts, it was, the teacher passes out 35 copies of Huck Finn. We all sit and spend 6 weeks reading Huck Finn, and we talk about every single aspect of that book until we're all sick of reading it. And then we move on, and through the course of that school year, you might read 5 or 6 books. Really, the goal is to have students reading much more significantly than that. If students are going through a whole year of a reading class and only reading 4 books, 1 per quarter, that's really just not sufficient. And research shows that students improve their reading and writing by reading and writing. It's a phenomenal, mind-blowing concept, I know. So we're really talking about ways to structure classes that get students engaged in meaningful reading and writing activities more, not just listening to other people read or not just talking through exhaustive aspects of the text. So really spending significant times diving into a variety of texts and then discussing it in peer groups and with the teacher. So that's kind of the approach that we've used. Again, like the 3rd through 6th grade, we're looking at the units of study workshop approach in reading and writing for the middle school. And you can see on the bottom of page 15 my estimated costs. I did an analysis of the cost proposals for K2, and that really comes out to about $60,000 per grade level. The 3-6 comes out to about $70,000 per grade level. And initially, it's the McQuantigo way to be as conservative fiscally as possible. And I realized that I was budgeting actually the same amount that we're spending on a single grade level at the elementary for all of the middle school. And when I really reflected on that, I just felt like that's not sufficient. So I really took a closer look at the amount of money that we really need to put into text to make this approach a positive experience for teachers and students. So we're looking at total cost for reading and writing for both 7th and 8th grades still at only $90,000 total, which is still significantly less than what we're spending per grade level at all the other levels.
Okay. All right.
There were some questions last time about the process that we use to select text, because we're getting into middle school, high school, where texts are being selected that aren't just about puppies and rainbows. And so we wanted to make sure that the board was aware of.
He's funny
Art
tonight.
still reads those books.
Those are good books.
So we want to make sure that that you're aware that we're aware of the responsibility that brings, and we continue to use the guidelines that we always have, put those in the memo for how we select texts. It is important to note that the way that we're looking to do this, as more student choices given, that parents sign off on the text that students are reading. So on day one of the unit, if a student selects a particular textbook or text, a novel to read for class, they're then getting permission that night from their parent, who can then look it over, ensure, yep, I'm okay with you being in this group reading this book, and then that's coming back to the teacher. So that's the model that we'll continue to use. That's the model that they've used this year as we started to implement some of these new strategies. And any text that is a mandatory text that all students would read, we'd continue to bring back to the board, as we always have, as a part of a curriculum approval.
I have a question. How is the return rate on those slips from home?
Well, it
They
has
ha-
to be
do
100%.
they- It has, that's what I'm saying. They have to, if they don't bring it back, they can't read the book until they get the thing signed, or?
Correct.
I'm just asking.
Mhm.
Jerry, I've sent those forms back multiple times.
Oh.
She keeps coming home with a different book. I'm like, nope. Okay. So I actually really appreciate it. Otherwise, I don't know that I would always know what she's reading, because she
Mhm.
reads fast, she reads at school. I don't always see it. So this was a great addition, I think.
Oh, because I hadn't seen that before, so, thanks.
So when Erica says no, then the rest of the class doesn't read it either?
No, these
Or
are
how
for
does that
her
work?
own individual ones. You get to pick your own, and then there are group book club
Mhm.
ones.
Okay.
But they've
Gotcha.
read a huge amount of books this year in 7th grade. Like, I've been very impressed.
Yes. So as I said, the middle school staff, as we've gone through this process, they've really already started implementing some of these different strategies to increase motivation, increase the amount of books that students are reading. And I think that was one of the biggest takeaways as we went around and visited other schools. We found that, students in other middle schools nearby are reading 40 to 50 books a year. And, in our previous model, they might have read half a dozen. So, I think that's really important. So we're not looking for final approval on this tonight. That'll come back for final approval at the next board meeting. But if there are any questions, be happy to answer them.
Okay. Anyone else have a question tonight? All right, then you can.
No
make sure
questions
you can-
here, Nick. Third time you've asked us, we're good.
Thanks, Craig.
If you think of anything during the week, please feel free to email Nick,
As always.
as always.
And I always like to say at this public meeting that all the materials that will be considered for approval at the next board meeting are available for public review here at the school district office.
There's a line out the door
So noted.
tomorrow morning in there.
Just record it, Nick.
All right. We're going to next, 16-17 assessment update.
All right, so on page 16 of your packet, we have an update on where we are with district assessments, and the good news is, at this point of the year, we are just about done, which I know everybody's very excited about. So basically, the way that this is aligned on the handout in front of you, sort of chronologically by primary grades at the top to our oldest students, with the exception of dynamic learning maps at the bottom. And in those descriptions, I tell you a little bit about which students have taken those assessments, what we're assessing, and when we get those results. So starting at the top of the list, our students in 4K, 4-year-old kindergarten through 2nd grade, take PALS, and that is responding to state statute requirements of annually screening our students in early literacy in those grades. And so that is the tool that we have used, and we screen our students 3 times a year, so fall, winter, and spring, across a variety of different areas. And teachers will use that data really as just-in-time data for their students to be responsive to the needs that they identify. STAR Math and Reading would be our computer screening testing that we do 3 times per year as well. We do math for STAR in grades 1 through 8, and our students in 2nd through 8th take it in reading. We have a couple of select freshmen and sophomores that might take it as well to monitor where they are also. We do that again 3 times per year, and that's offered through Renaissance Learning's STAR program. And again, that data is basically used to help monitor where our students are in the screen. Based on where they are, we use that in other teacher observations and other data they might collect to provide interventions for those students who need it, or perhaps additional challenges for those students who need it as well. Forward exam is, of course, the big one. That's the state mandated test that we take in March and April. That hits a pretty wide cross-section of our district as well. So students in grades 3 through 8 will do the English, language arts, and math portion of that test. Students in grades 4 through 8 will also complete science. And our lucky students in grades 4 and 8 also get to do social studies along with our 10th grade students as well. This is all computerized testing as well, and this is mandated by the Wisconsin DPI. We'll get that data over the course of the summer. Next up is ACT Aspire, and our freshmen and sophomores take that as well. That's also computerized testing, and that's mandated by DPI. That's really the next in the sequence of state mandated testing. So our freshmen and sophomores take that, and that's on the ACT sequence of testing. That's also data that we will get this summer. And then probably our most visible testing beyond forward exam would be the ACT and ACT work keys, and our juniors take those. That occurred at the end of February this year, actually February 28th and March 1st, I think, to be exact. These are still good old-fashioned paper and pencil ACT tests, and they include English, reading, math, science, and writing. Work keys is a fairly new addition to that suite of tests, and that really helps identify career readiness skills in math, locating information, reading for information for our students as well. Students have gotten individual results for those tests already, but we'll get school-wide data for that over the summer. And then we have a very small number of students who have significant cognitive disabilities, and they would take dynamic learning maps, and this is a computerized test as well. And this would be the replacement test for students who just really are not able to take forward exam, ACT, Aspire, or ACT. And we have a very small, about less than 1% of our students really ought to be taking dynamic learning maps. Any questions about any of our battery of assessments?
Erica?
2nd graders, for reading, do they do both PALS and STAR?
They do, and as a result of aligning our assessments this year, one of the things we're looking at, again in alignment with our new reading program, is to try and reduce the amount of testing, particularly on our 2nd graders. They get hit very heavy.
Jeff?
That's kind of the question I was going to ask is, do we think that all of these serve a significant purpose, or is there overlap that maybe is duplication of effort and time that maybe we can get rid of?
I think particularly at our primary grades, there are some things that we can do. For example, the state statute with PALS actually reads that we are required to test students annually. Up until this point, we have done it multiple times per year, and I think moving forward, we're going to look at trying to reduce that number, except for students who we really need to assess. Those students who are struggling, where we really need those extra data points. STAR Math and Reading, same thing. There might be ways that we can start to look at that as well. But that's been a part of our curriculum alignment process, particularly in literacy, is to look at where we can make that assessment most useful and make it really meaningful without overpowering our students.
Art?
What about the 8th grade? I mean, 8th grade really looks like it's loaded.
8th grade gets hit pretty hard as well.
And,
They've got
I mean,
between-
and it's such a tough year.
So for example, one of the conversations that we had with the Parkview staff this year is particularly our high achieving students. They talked about these kids are scoring at the 97th, 98th, 99th percentile forever. They basically have to wake up in the morning and score that. Can we eliminate a testing window for them or two and allow them to really be taking more classes instead of the assessments? We already have a pretty good idea of where they'll score. So we're piloting that this year in 8th grade to see if maybe we can reduce a little bit of assessment in some of those different areas.
So
Jerry?
part of the problem with 8th grade is that they get hit hard on the forward exam. And unfortunately, in terms of highly actionable data, that forward exam doesn't really, for the time that we invest in it, it doesn't really represent really great data that we can take back to teachers and say, hey, you can use this to figure out what to teach next week, because the results don't come until the next summer. And so that's that huge statewide test that really all of our 3rd through 8th graders are taking. It's a significant amount of time, but we don't get the results for months. And by then, the students are moving on to the next grade level anyway. So I wish that those results would be a little more usable or actionable, but that's required by the state. And so then to get us some actionable data, we use STAR, which is real time. Really, by the time the kids walk out of the computer lab, we have that data, and teachers can use that then to help them figure out who's still struggling, who might need some extra help, who might need to go into an intervention. So that's really where we're getting our actionable data. But
Right.
that means we have to layer it on top of forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah,
It, you know, it stinks, yeah.
right.
Jerry?
So I know we've been talking about this, and I think you had a chart at one time, because I was trying to cross over which grades to. But I've been hearing a lot from, not this district only, this district and others, about this testing. So could you just refresh, I know you said it, which one of these, are the PALs and the STARS state mandated, or are those ones we've chosen to get data from? Because you've said the forward is state mandated, the ACTS and the ACT.
So districts are mandated to do an early literacy screener, and we've chosen to do PALS, which was initially the early literacy screener that the state mandated.
Okay,
So we have to do an early literacy screener. PALS
Okay.
is just the one that we choose.
okay.
STAR reading and math are optional assessments. Those are assessment tools that, as Nick mentioned, we do in order to give a much faster turnaround time in terms of getting data. So that's data that a student can take a test, and literally moments later the teacher can pull that data up and do something with it. They can adjust learning. But that would be an optional test.
How many years have we been doing that one?
4th year of STAR.
So it's been since, yeah, because that's what I thought we, okay.
Although, the one thing that we should note is that districts have to have what's called a universal screener. So we have to have a process to determine students who should go into an intervention, because now that intervention process is a part of the identification process for students who might need special education services. So in a backwards stepping way, the STAR kind of is required, because we have to have kind of a standardized universal screening tool that will help us identify and show that students are struggling and need intervention, and then we have to monitor that intervention. So there are some assessments that are required for that process. They don't require that we use STAR, but that's the one that we use.
So, just trying to understand, so, are they like, you have to do them by the whole classroom? Like, let's say you did the one in the fall, and then you had kids that were in need, and so then you'd like to have them do the next one, because they were, and not everybody, so at the teacher, because it just seems that, and this is where that they say they don't even have enough, their tests, between testing and whatever, they don't even have time to get their field trips in, between testing and teaching time, that it takes so much time in the classroom that they just can't even do their jobs. And so, and that's not just, I've heard that from this district, but I've also heard it from Waukesha and, over there. East Troy.
So I
And
think,
So I mean, it seems to be it's not like a, yeah.
yeah, as Ben said, though, that's one big reason why we're talking about not necessarily assessing all students after we've already assessed them and they've shown proficiency.
But I mean, even less than, I mean, I heard that, but even,
So,
some of the kids that aren't at 98, you know, that's what I'm saying.
so one of the other things that we are constantly doing is reviewing the assessments that we have some choice over to see, can we offer them less? Can we find better tools? And so that is an ongoing process. It concerns us too. It's a lot of instructional time lost, and we want to make sure the data that we're getting is worth that instructional time. But like Nick said, we have to have some kind of tool that we offer to everybody at different points of the year per the specific learning disability identification criteria, for example. But it's clearly a concern for us as well. That's a lot of time that we spend on assessment.
I don't know, some of you who were on learning committee a while back might remember that at one point we were using DIBELS instead of STAR, and DIBELS was a individually administered test. We actually pulled every special education, every gifted and talented teacher, every reading specialist, every administrator, and we all descended on a school and individually administered the DIBELS assessments to students. It took about a half a day per building, and we had to take all those people out of their classrooms in order to do it. It was very time intensive and personnel intensive, and therefore expensive. And so when we found out about STAR, we just felt like that was a better use of the time and resources, because STAR is a computer adaptive test. You can go into the lab or pull out a set of Chromebooks, and every student can complete the STAR assessment in 20 minutes or 30 minutes, whereas the DIBELS was like this logistical nightmare production. Yeah.
Does STAR not offer an early literacy screener?
They do, and we actually tried it a couple of years ago, and the feedback we got from our primary teachers was we need to not do this, because the data that we were getting did not necessarily align with their own observations, and it wasn't deep enough data. PALS gives a much richer set of data, so our teachers are much happier with PALS.
Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Finance and Facilities Committee, Employee Benefit Comparison.
I gave everybody a presentation there in paper. Did you want to bring it up on the PowerPoint, walk through it, or it's up to you? I can do it in 4 minutes if you want to go through it real quick.
Just walk through it.
All right.
Hit it.
I agree. Let's walk through it, Tom.
All right. All right, so I participate in a lot of SWASBO, which is in southern Wisconsin, school business officials, surveys and whatnot. This is where I got the data from. So there are 30. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. There's 33 school districts that participated in the SWASBO survey. So that's where we're getting our data from. And not all 33 are really an apples to apples district that we can compare ourselves against. Ultimately, there's 24 districts total that offer a fully insured plan versus a self-insured plan. That wasn't a high deductible plan that we just can't compare ourselves to. So if there's any questions at any point, please stop me. But excuse me, ultimately there's 17 districts that we are similar to. So we'll compare ourselves here over the next coming slides here. So as an ongoing effort to educate not only the board here tonight, but also employees throughout the district, I always try to break this down in understandable elements, because this ultimately isn't easily understood. So here's the 4 things that ultimately I want everybody to know about in terms of what are the out-of-pocket costs that each of our employees has to kind of plan and budget for. So there's obviously the share of premium. We charge our employees 12% of the value of the premium, whether it's single or family. The deductible amount is the amount that everyone pays, $500 or $1,000 for single or family. Once that deductible amount is met, that $500 or $1,000 is reached, then the co-insurance rate kicks in. So in our district, it's a 0% rate. So once you reach that deductible amount, you're basically off the hook for everything with the exception of your co-pays. Whether your deductible is met or not met, you'll always pay your office visit co-pays or your pharmacy co-pays, your emergency room or urgent care co-pays. Those will always apply. Okay? So we'll just kind of compare all those various things here. The face value, the cost, not breaking this down between what the employer or the employee pays, but just the actual cost of the single insurance, we're about almost $8,800. So we're about $300 to $400 higher than our counterparts throughout southern Wisconsin. Okay. The cost of family insurance is likewise, it's about $300 higher than our counterparts throughout the area. When you take a look at how much do those other districts charge their employees, we're slightly higher at 12%. The others average out to 10%. So we charge a slightly higher amount for the health insurance. Looking at the deductible, the actual out-of-pocket that everybody's on the hook for before the insurance actually kicks in, we have rather low deductibles here. So we have a $500 deductible amount for singles, whereas the other districts we're comparing ourselves to is at about almost double that amount, almost $1,000. Likewise with the family deductible, we have a $1,000 deductible, whereas the average is approaching $2,000. Okay. That coinsurance rate, once you reach that $500 or $1,000 limit, that coinsurance rate applies. So our counterparts, those employees on average pay 4% of all bills that exceed the $500 or $1,000 deductible amounts. And our employees here are good to go once that $500 or $1,000 deductible is met. Okay. Taking a look at the office visit copays over the next 3 slides here, we have a slightly lower office visit copay. We have a slightly lower urgent care copay, and then we have a significantly lower emergency room copay. As we take a look at our data and we get our health insurance rates are locked in for the 17-18 school year, but when we are up for renewal in 18-19, these are the types of things we're going to have to begin to consider as we take a look at the cost of our emergency room visits. We'll begin to visit this data to say how often are we utilizing it, because if you price it really low, of course people are going to use it. If it's priced rather high, people are not going to use it. So if you want to get that behavior of just using the emergency room for truly emergencies, when there's blood or there's a true emergency, you have to price it accordingly. So those are things we'll talk about as time moves forward here as we approach the 18-19 school year. Our cash in lieu benefits for those that are offered health insurance that decline it, we offer our employees $3,000, and on average it's slightly higher throughout the area. So, another thing that we'll look at is if we were to increase that, would that promote more people or encourage more people to decline the offer of insurance? As you take a look throughout the area, not just in the public sector but in the private sector, if there's a larger introduction and more utilization of high deductible plans with like a health savings account, what our employees who do decline our health insurance typically do is they'll take their spouse's plan, they'll take this $3,000 and they put it into that HSA. So they begin to bridge that gap between what they're responsible for and what their deductible amount ultimately is. And if they don't use that money, if they're good consumers of their health plans, then they'll get next year's $3,000 payment, and they'll accumulate enough money to really treat those dollars as their own. Again, those are things we'll talk about as we move forward over the next 12 or 13 months. Okay, so just in summary here, we have even when we introduced our narrow network to our district here this past December, we still have higher rates. We're still paying a higher rate for our single plans and our family plans. Our deductibles are definitely low, so that's a good thing. I mean, that's when you look at the total compensation package, we're saving out-of-pocket costs for our employees. And our co-insurance rate at 0% is outstanding. Likewise, all of our office visit co-pays, especially the emergency room, is extremely low. And then I have a note there, our cash in lieu, we could talk and consider about what increasing that would do in terms of getting people to decline our offer of health. Okay. As I taking a look at some conclusions here and things we'll talk about, and this really kind of comes down to our new employee benefits consultant, which we'll talk about later tonight, and how we go about actually analyzing these decisions and not just doing them because they sound right, but looking at the data, letting that data speak to you and saying, okay, if we do this, this is what will happen to our costs. So I just have a quick summary there. And then observations just for ideas that as I look around at what other districts do. Some districts charge a lower percentage of the premium for their support staff, and they charge their teachers more. So one district charged their support staff 4% and their teachers 6%, as a way to acknowledge that support staff wages typically are much lower than the teaching staff. So it is a way to acknowledge that. That's what their strategy was. Another district charged a higher share of premium for those employees that are 10-month employees, and a lower percentage for those that work year-round. And finally, another district, they decided to stratify their single and family premium shares to make it to really try to encourage people to perhaps take the offer of single coverage. So even in a marriage where one spouse would just take that single plan, and then the rest of the family members would go on their spouse's plan. So and I'm not endorsing any of these right now. I'm just showing these for ideas as to what's going on outside McGuanago. So as I went through the employee benefits consulting, and that's something, again, we'll talk about later tonight, but one thing I learned that was very important is that a very rich benefit that's poorly communicated is received exactly the same as a very poor benefit that's communicated well. And at times I wonder how well are we communicating our full compensation packages, and in particular the health insurance. That's the biggest benefit we offer far and away. So I think that this is really just the beginning of us educating our entire district on what this benefit looks like in terms of health insurance and how it compares. So I bring this for you tonight just for your consideration. Any questions about any of that stuff?
I have a question. Tom, I don't know the details of our current provider and how it shakes down, but do we have a wellness provision that incentivizes people to work towards actual monetary rewards that helps offset premium costs? I mean, that's kind of a trend, I think, in the industry.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's a trend. We, at this point in time, we don't have a wellness plan of any sort. That's and moving towards a new employee benefits consultant, that was one of the things that we asked about. What are your ideas for a wellness plan? So yeah, we're aware that we lack one. We have a lot of good ideas, but we got to pick the one that's right for us. And if we all agree here in this room that it makes sense, that's what we'll do.
We have talked about that in the past, and just hasn't
gone anywhere.
Yeah, so that was, most of those conversations were with Darren Clark, my predecessor. So
Well, it depends on how big of an incentive it is, I think, to motivate people to participate. There's a real broad range, so I think I hope we're looking at it.
yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can reduce somebody's the 12% premium share. You can reduce that down to 8% if they participate in a biometric screening or a health risk assessment. And the more information we have, better off that we can control these costs throughout the district. Any other questions? Okay.
All right, next up is the benefit consultant recommendation.
So we'll talk about that in closed session here, come up later tonight.
Nope. Third quarter investment update?
Yeah, just per board policy, I shared that third quarter update there. It's on page 28. They give you an update as to where things are at right now. Again, about 25% of our money is invested with the CISA 6 Wisconsin Trust Fund. That's kind of administered through BMO Harris and a slew of other financial consultants that monitor the investments and whatnot. And the other 75% of our money is with Citizens Bank. So I know, Chair, I know you had asked a question looking for an update as to when you made this determination to use the CISA 6 Wisconsin OPEB with BMO Harris. There was going to be 25% of all dollars. And this is going back to Darren Clark's time, so you might have to go back in time here in your memories there. But I honored Darren's plan. I stuck with the plan. But as we move forward into the month of June, I'll bring more ways. Now that we're pretty much fully funded, we don't want to necessarily have any market risks. There's nothing to gain. I guess just a lot to lose. I'd put it like that. If our money has market exposure and we have another crash of any sort, we'll go from 100% funded down to 70% funded pretty quickly. And that there's a lot of fixed rates of return that we can get where we're not looking to break the bank, but we're looking to minimize every risk possible. So we'll talk about that in June and go from there.
Okay. All right. Any questions? All right, Maxwell Street Days contract.
So I brought before you a contract. I couldn't find a recent one that was executed, so I thought it made sense to to look at the contract, and essentially we allow the McGuanago Fire and Rescue to operate, as you all probably know, the middle school parking lot during Maxwell Street days. We get 1/3 of the gates, and they get the other 2/3, and that 1/3 goes towards scholarships for seniors at the high school. It works out to be about $6,000 a year. They do 3 $2,000 scholarships. So if you're comfortable with that, I'd like for you to approve that.
Can they give those scholarships to us?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Tom, how many other groups are asking to do that?
I'm not aware of any. I mean, I'm sure there
They
would be.
probably can't get the help to do that.
I guess, yeah, I don't know. I haven't, I just wanted to make sure that we had all of our bases covered, that they're showing proof of liability in the event that, and I had no reason to doubt that the McGuanago Fire and Rescue wasn't doing these things, but you gotta be overly cautious with all this liability.
So, are we able to approve this, or?
So you can do this at the next meeting. I just bring this
Yeah.
before you now, and
Okay.
we'll make a motion next time.
That's what I was clarifying.
Sure.
Okay.
I would think other people aren't asking because it just kind of assumed that's who has it.
Yeah.
Not that we should look, I'm not thinking we should, but, you know, it's not like, oh, 1 month this group can do it and the next month this group can do it.
Okay, any other questions? All right, moving on. MHS project update.
Kurt, you're here, all right.
I am here.
He came out of his closet.
We don't let him out until it's time to speak.
Great haircut, Kurt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bert.
Welcome.
A couple quick updates on the high school project. Tennis courts, they have their last home game this week, so after this week, the 15th, I believe it is, they're planning on starting to remove those tennis courts, the existing ones. So shortly thereafter, the new ones will be coated. Basically, once the temperature is 50 degrees at night for a week, they'll be able to start putting a coating on. So that'll be exciting to have that done. As you can see as you drive by, you can see one of the canopies out there. There's a light pole that gets put in the center yet, and then and then the second canopy will go up. So we should be seeing that soon as well.
Will we be reusing those windbreak with the logo and everything on it that are on the fencing right now?
The existing tennis courts, we don't have plans for them. They're starting to get
They're
tattered.
not, yeah.
Okay. But I just was curious if we're gonna do something of that sort if
The new, with the new courts, you're saying?
yeah,
Yes, the new courts actually have built-in permanent
okay.
windscreens on it. So we won't have to take them down and put them up and get it, the wind often. They don't last. They only last a few years before the wind tears them apart. So the new ones will have the vinyl slats in it for windbreak. So the new water service, the rerouted water service, was completed last week at the front of the building. Masonry walls are going up. Second floor demolition is continuing. One of the challenges we've been working through since spring break has been we've been getting a handful of complaints. It started off being odor complaints after we had the floor removal done. There was a no odor. Obviously, it wasn't really a no odor mastic remover, but it left some residual odor. So as we were getting complaints there, we were chasing that with adding ventilation, adding negative air pressure to suck that air out. And I think we, as that week went on, and as we were talking to people, felt like we were tackling that problem. And then as the next week came up, it was more starting to get dust complaints. So we've been chasing those. In fact, when I wrote the memo last week Thursday for this board packet, I thought we had it licked and everything was good. And then sure enough, Thursday afternoon after I get the memo out, had another complaint. So we have been working with our, prior to occupying the space after spring break, we had air clearance testing done to make sure everything was safe, and the results came back good. Since we were getting complaints, we've been involving our environmental contractor or consultant, EMC, along the way, just checking to make sure that the construction company's putting the proper containment up, that we're having negative air to suck the air out. We've been running our HVAC systems 24/7 up in that second floor area just to keep that clean air circulating in that space.
this last Friday, we said with the number that we were getting, the handful of complaints we were getting, I said, let's put a meter in there that's constantly measuring dust particulates, carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide were the three things. So the dust particulates came back all good. There was nothing that was over that limit, which made us scratch our heads a little bit. As far as LEED puts out a limit or a recommended maximum particulates. Some of the symptoms that we've been hearing is just sore throats. Early on when there's odors, there were some headaches that we were hearing from various people. Now, the interesting thing is when you follow up on those complaints, you know, when I would go up there, I'd ask just random people how they feel, and if I talk to 9 people, they'll, 9 of them will say everything's fine, and then the 10th person. So it's one of those things, just like odors or anything. Some people are more sensitive than others. So, but back to the test results. Dust particulate test results came back that we were, everything was within the LEED recommended maximum, so we're continuing to monitor that though. The carbon dioxide levels, maximum is 5,000 parts per million. We're well below that, but we're still, there's a couple classrooms that were above the recommended for carbon dioxide, which is more likely nothing to do with the construction, more likely just that's the way those classrooms, this is one of the reasons we're improving those classrooms, better HVAC and larger rooms. And then the third was carbon monoxide, and there was no issues with that. So just wanted to bring you guys up to speed just in case you're getting feedback elsewhere. It is something that we've had some challenges with, and we've been chasing them, and I feel like we are, well, I hope right now we're on a good track. Like I said, this morning when we checked the results with the test, everything was showing as good, but yet we still got a concern this morning from somebody that had a concern last week, Thursday and Friday as well. So we've also been moving classrooms a little bit as well. So we've been working to address it. The scientific data says we're good, but obviously there's still some people that are being affected with it. So stay tuned.
Ms. Diedrich?
I just wanted to say, going back to the tennis courts, Mr. Wierzbicki actually took us on a little field trip today out to the tennis courts, and they look great. And I know that I talked to Mr. Wierzbicki after he came here and we talked about the lights, that he was very grateful for that, and he's really excited about that. So I just wanted to let you guys know that he's super pumped about that. So.
Okay. Max?
And then being one of the students that had a classroom in where all that construction area that Kurt was talking about, in the beginning, right when we got back from spring break, I was definitely one of those students that had the sore throat, just from the ventilation that was in there. But now, just with the HVAC and that running and all that, they have done so much that it's made the situation 10 times better, at least for me. And I know that many other students have improved, at least from like getting sick part. So I know that definitely because of their efforts, it's been a world of difference. So I appreciate that.
Thanks, Matt. That's good feedback here. One of the other things we made a decision on Friday, Thursday night, we made a decision that we're just going to have crews work second shift just to help minimize the work that's happening within those areas. So starting today, they are working second shift now rather than first shift as well. So.
And can you clarify which crews those are, Kurt? Not everybody, but.
The demolition crews on the second floor, right? So the outside contractors are continuing to work first shift, but basically second floor stuff in the occupied space.
Okay.
So.
Any other
questions?
questions?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt.
All right, MASD wage scales and other rates of pay.
Sure. So as we continue to build a budget for 2017-18, I on pages 33 and 34, I brought our current hourly wages that we pay our support staff in buildings and grounds, food service, our office personnel, our instructional assistants, and also our substitute rates for those support staff. Page 34, we have what we pay our teaching staff for, other non-traditional areas that are outside their normal responsibilities there. So I know I've heard some conversation about this as time has, gone forward here over the last year or so. So I just bring this before you now If you have concerns or requests that you want to see something, I can price out any changes that you'd like to see happen here. So this is purely informational here. If there's request of information you want, just let me know what that is and I can bring that back to you.
Okay.
Jeff, did you have
No,
a comment? You're good?
I'm fine.
All right.
All right. Anyone? Any questions? All right. Moving on. Personnel Committee, District Administrator, Performance Evaluation.
So if you would take a look at the document that was separate from your packet in your folder, it's 5 or 6 pages. It's entitled DAPES, the District Administrator Performance Evaluation. And at the Personnel Committee meeting last week, I explained that we had received some information on this new superintendent evaluation system, that the cost, one-time training fee cost of $1,900 would actually be 2 training sessions. One training session would be 4 to 5 hours, and that would be in the next couple of months. And then the second training session would be when the board members are ready to fill out the evaluation for the first time. So assuming next spring sometime, late spring, early summer. So see, this is a model that I shared with you last year, roughly at this time. I don't know if most of you recall that, but it was put together by CISA 6. We're in CISA 1, that's who we contract with, but CISA 6, Oshkosh area, Fox River Valley, they have put together an evaluation system for superintendents. And so you expressed some interest in it last summer or last spring, and so now we're finally following through on that. And then there's a $350 fee on an annual basis following the initial training, and you can see what is covered with that $350 per year. And then the rest of the documents behind that introductory page are some of the forms that are with the evaluation, the superintendent evaluation, the administrative standards that you would be judging me on, evaluating me on, goal development worksheet, things like that. And so you can see it's a much more elaborate process than what we're doing right now.
And
Yeah.
what is, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
is everybody in the WASBO doing this type of thing? Is this just a Quantico thing, or is?
No, I can tell you that a lot of CISA 6 superintendents do it. So in the Fox River Valley, I believe that some of in our area, some of the superintendents use this model. I can ask that question. I don't have a good number for that, though. That's a good question. I don't have an answer.
And we're doing this because
We're looking for
why?
something new because the one we have is not very effective. You're reviewing things you don't normally observe, their interactions, and so for a while we've been looking for a new evaluation process, and this is the one we liked last spring.
I'd never liked it. I still don't. Sorry, Sherry.
So, the $1,900, I get. The $350 annually could go on like forever, is this one I think is, and if you read down, it says, a set of 7 online training modules that are made available to those who, I'm paraphrasing, because why read it, you all can, who were a part of the original training. Okay,
Correct.
so, all right, so we've now, this bunch takes it, and we've paid our $1,900.
Mhm.
And so for $3,000 a year until, as long as we're on the board, we can take extra classes, but the new people come on for, whoever, where do they get their training from? And, because it's not included in the $350, I can see if the $350 would include training that people who come on new. So I know that it's just information, you didn't write it, but that's my question. If the $350 said, okay, $350 a year is for, if you get a new board member, now we'll train that board member so they're up to speed with everyone else. But after we've had the training, there's a set of 7 online, does it do 7 new ones, and what are they? I don't understand, so I'm asking the question.
That's the information that he gave me, so I don't know.
I guess I don't know who do we ask these questions to, who know the answers? I'm not thinking you should, but I'm.
Right. So there's a gentleman at CISA 6 that's in charge of this project. His name is Keith Fuchs. And so I think he might do the training. I'm not 100% certain on that, but obviously someone from CISA 6 would provide the training for us.
I mean, the last bullet point does indicate that it's online training modules for the original training or for new board members.
Right. I think that's,
I think it's just for,
So that would be.
I think it's online training. So I think if your question is how do new board members get trained,
It's that
it's
piece.
the online training
And
modules.
then if you forget, you can go on and.
Yes. If that's what your question is, that's,
yeah.
So
I
it's
believe
not
that's the
something
answer.
new, a set of online training modules that are made available, so that online training module is the same thing that you had the in-person training, but.
I'm assuming so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there anything else out there, any other superintendent evaluation, is this, we had these,
Yeah, if you remember last year at this time or even previously, I shared there was a couple from Iowa I had pulled together, maybe one from Boston, Massachusetts. They were
but they haven't, the state hasn't come across with any since they've had this,
state of Wisconsin. No,
because they were going to, right? Weren't they working on that?
that is pretty far down on their priority list at the Department of Public Instruction. I think that they realize that probably the CISA 6 model is as good as they could put together, so they're happy with districts going with this.
So CISA 6 is getting the benefit of writing it, is what's happening.
Yes.
Is that,
Mhm.
they're,
Mhm.
they capitalized on the,
Yes, they did on that
Yep.
need. So you guys need to decide if you want to pursue this, and if we want to pursue it, then we need to contact CISA 6 with a couple of dates that you can spend 4 to 5 hours on training.
so the question is, how long do you have, like, let's say we do the $1,900. I mean, we want to look for some, we've been looking for this for years, right?
Yeah, I think actually we looked at this 2 years ago
Right.
because we were gonna do it for this year and then we never got around to it.
That's correct, because when we got the new one this year, I thought, we're
Yeah.
doing something for this year. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we do the $1,900, and then we try it, and then how long did you keep it?
As long as we wanna pay that annual fee, I'm assuming.
Right.
And as soon as we don't wanna do it anymore, we don't pay the annual fee and we're done.
And is it a computer one? Is it a paper one?
I think it's paper, but I don't know.
So by defining goals and putting the 4 to 5 hours in, this is supposed to make this a better.
I'm going to be better.
Well, that's worth $1,900.
It's gotta be better.
It is.
He's got improvement.
So the cost of this isn't a big deal.
No.
But neither are 4-hour meetings. And I think I just, my opinion only is that here we go. We'll talk about it later.
There's
Well,
pizza.
and I have
We
one-
can get
And
pizza.
just one other, just general, we spent time with a trainer coming in several years ago, last year, okay? And they made recommendations, and then we were at referendum, so our time was sucked up by referendum, because it was a master plan or something of that effect. And so we've spent the money and we haven't used that training. So the bottom line is, I'm good, I'm willing to spend the money, willing to do the training, as long as it's something that's gonna be used, because I still think we should use what we learned the last time. And that was, how much money did we spend?
I didn't think it was that much. I
No, it
don't think it was that much money.
It was $2,000, it was that much.
I don't think so.
I don't recall. I'd have to look that up. I honestly, I don't remember. So that Louis Birchbauer from the WASB, one of his recommendations was that this board come up with a strategic plan. And if you recall, that's a very time-intensive, lots of people involved process. Not just the board, but staff, community, etc. So that, in a way, it does go hand in hand with this type of superintendent evaluation model. I'm not saying that you have to do the strategic plan first, but
What you're
that-
saying, you're thinking, we're asking you, do you need the strategic plan and then you put some of these things into place? Would we do this and then through that, we do the strategic plan?
I can
'Cause
ask that question.
Nobody even wanna do a strategic, I mean, it's just that.
The
if you
strategic,
ask them,
if we
hey,
want to
this
do a
is what
strategic plan, then that, we can bring back more information about that. And I'm assuming if, just thinking this through right now, you probably have a strategic plan first. And then you have the superintendent evaluation model, but there's no saying you can't do it in the reverse order.
that was
So,
why I asked, 'cause we-
Yeah.
but again, that we talked about it briefly last fall, if we wanted to do a strategic plan, and there was not a lot of interest. So, do you want me to bring more information back on that?
Well, I'm asking people who are sitting here, I'm just saying, we spent the money and the time. Erica, did you come to that? You
I
did-
was
you
at
were-
home
you were
live
sitting-
streaming because
She
I had a
was dying.
concussion.
Right, that's right. So
Art
before-
kept waking me
I'm
up on the
asking your
computer.
opinion, 'cause you know what I'm talking about
was
here.
fun.
So I mean, if we're gonna keep doing these things and then do nothing,
Well, if this method of evaluation is based off of having a strategic plan, then it seems pointless to implement this method of evaluation until we have a strategic plan. And at the WASB convention for the last 2 years, every single breakout talks about, you have to have a strategic plan, you have to have a strategic plan, and if we don't,
and that's why I don't remember talking about it
We're
in the
kinda
fall and
walking
having,
blind.
having lack of interest, because I've also gone to those seminars at the WSB, and they all say it's a good way to evaluate your districts, and so I'll
I can ask that question, if you'd like me to bring that back on the 22nd.
second.
Thank you. Whether or not we should have a strategic plan first. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. College and Career Readiness Coordinator position.
So I think we'll go to executive session with that one too.
Yep.
But although we really, we could do it out here too. It's up to you guys.
Why don't we do executive session?
Okay.
We're gonna go, same with the associate principal
Mhm.
position.
Sure.
Okay.
They're both we're excited about both those people.
Okay. Unfinished business, superintendent's report.
Sure,
Season one.
real quick, I just have some information. I wanted to give you an update on the CISA 1 superintendent's effort to try to get a common spring break. So if you recall, we're hoping to do a survey. Some districts are doing it right now. I think I would prefer to do it next fall, early next fall, gather some information from our staff and parents, not only about a common spring break, which might be the last week of March, but the first week of April, but also other calendar issues. If that's okay with you, we'd put that together this summer and then share that with parents and staff.
Yeah, that's fine.
next
It's
fall?
not gonna change next year's calendar anyway, so.
No, and I think it just is a good time to talk about the calendar 2018, 19, and beyond next fall when people are starting to think about it.
Okay.
So, just couple sample questions there that we put together for the common spring break, but we'll have a larger survey with that. That's good?
Good.
Just at our last CISA 1 superintendent's meeting, I wanted to touch base with you. I had interesting conversation last Friday with the College of Education deans from Marquette University, Carroll University, Cardinal Stritch, Alverno, Mount Mary, a number of colleges and universities in southeastern Wisconsin. Some sort of concerning news, and we've been hearing it in the press, media, in the news, and they confirmed it, that the number of teacher candidates, the number of people that are going into teaching, has been drastically reduced. As a matter of fact, those deans, almost every single one of them, said that this year they are at record lows for the number of people in teaching in the College of Education, their colleges of education. So there are some big concerns about the number of people that we'll have available to fill our positions down the road. Ironically, they said that many of the people that traditionally may have gone into teaching, they see going into health occupations. Better pay, more flexible schedules, that kind of reason. So and we'll talk about this down the road, but we might have to do some work at the high school to try to convince more of our students to consider teaching as a possible profession. And just as we're creating IT academies and hopefully a business academy, a manufacturing academy, a health occupations academy, maybe we have to talk about teaching also. So something to think about.
Where would we find teachers to teach?
I don't know if we have any, but
Yeah.
we're going to look for
Be a
some.
tough one.
Yep. And then there's an article I attached to the packet, September 1 start date. Governor Walker says no go on that, or appealing the law that says we could start before September 1. Governor Walker is saying no go on that. That's just an update. We have an enrollment update for you, the latest enrollment report. A graduation invite, as you know, graduation is coming up June 11. So you're all invited, and we're going to look for you to let me know if you're going to be able to attend, and then we're going to do some planning on who hands what diplomas, or the diplomas to which kids. So
We expect big cheers as we cross the stage.
yes, absolutely.
I just want Emily's.
And some money in our diplomas.
We understand that too.
I thought there was a gift card in that envelope you just got.
Good luck on your wishes.
We just gave you $2, Emily, really?
Yeah.
You will get a diploma though.
I can promise you a congratulations.
And then just looking ahead, June meetings. So I mentioned that we're going to meet again on May 22nd. And on June 12th, I'm going to be out of the state on the 26th of June, our regularly scheduled second meeting in June. I know Mary will be also. So
That sounds like it's going to be a really good meeting. So have fun, guys.
That's Memorial.
for
No,
July,
July,
yeah,
we're doing
We're in
June.
June.
July 4th. So
My
it,
calendar just died.
we'll try to have just one meeting in June. We'll take a look at the agenda, but if it looks brutal, the June 12th meeting would last hours and hours, and we'll come up with a plan B for either June 26th, meeting without us, or an alternative date. Sound good?
Okay.
And then correspondence, if I can jump to that right away, Mary, just an email in there that shows our progress working with the county on trying to reduce the speed limit out in front of McGuanago High School. So it looks like the county board is ready to proceed with that. One of the conditions, and Kurt might have mentioned this a couple months ago, that our high school had to work with our driver's education providers and come up with a
Tell
plan.
them not to run into each other.
Come up with a
Yeah,
plan
it was great.
to
Yeah.
reduce
Be looking at your
reduce the number of accidents. We have way too many accidents in front of McGuanago High School, as you all know, and a lot of it is because of inattentive driving.
Really? It's hard to drive like this.
And so
So it's not really speed, it's intent driving. So if you slow them down, you think you're gonna.
I think it's both. I think we need to reduce the speed and get them to pay more attention to the drivers in front of them and the fact that they're stopped.
I hate the parking lot.
Well,
scares
I've had
me.
a daughter who is quite old now who had an accident at that light because the car wasn't moving.
Yeah.
So, just so you know, we're working on an education effort.
Okay.
Can we
Eh.
have an education effort that doesn't necessarily, do they have like a homeroom or something that could come to the students at the high school instead of instead of the driver ed places? Obviously, the people who are in the parking lot have already completed the driver's ed courses, and they are the ones that need it. So could there be something that
Sure, I can talk to the guys about that too.
that
Yep.
would fulfill the, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? 'Cause
Yep, that's a good
the
idea.
people who are crashing.
And an announcement on snowy days and rainy days that, hey, the roads are actually slippery out there. Your distance needs to be greater.
Could start with the squealing of tires and the crashing of metal, and then maybe they'd have the attention and they could make that announcement.
Scare tactics.
I'll work on that. Again, that was just an update.
I'll never turn right to go down in on a rainy or snowy day.
I understand.
That's a suicide mission. All right.
That's all I have.
That's all you got?
Mhm.
No legislation?
No
Board mem-
legislation at this time. The
Board mem-
budget, the Joint Finance Committee should be looking at education hopefully next week, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
All right, board member questions? Alrighty.
Max and I actually have a big list of things that.
Make a motion to go into an executive session.
Oh, wait, I thought citizens'
I-
comments.
I have
Wait. Okay, you have a question?
Yeah,
Okay.
a question. Well, I don't know if it's a question or a comment. You know.
Hit it.
Okay, so on Tuesday, there was a personnel committee meeting because information, so that more information could be shared with the people who had concerns. Okay, there were some things brought up there that I didn't know that, because I attended, and I didn't know that they were necessarily personnel issues. And then I was thinking about the curriculum developments and the fact that the learning committee or a curriculum, whatever. So I didn't know if, because we've gone to the 2 meetings, sometimes there's so much information or there's other things that are happening under it that we really never are made aware of. So I gave some consideration to it and thought, this has been an experiment for a year and whatever. Maybe like the learning committee needed to meet once a quarter or so that concerns in that area would be brought to that group of people and then shared. I'm just bringing it up because it,
Well, when we talked about it, we had decided that the learning committee, if they need to meet, would meet every 3 months or every 4 months, depending on what the need was, determined by Nick.
determined, so what was the personnel committee need determined by?
Yeah.
Well, there was an issue, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, that's
there
what
was
I'm
something
I'm
that
just
came up
saying,
that-
who is the person that determines, I think we need to have a committee meeting?
I think any board members can bring that up, that we feel that the learning committee should meet,
Right, if
and
there's a
then
big
the learning
something-
committee can vote on that.
Yeah. If there's something coming up or some large discussion that the learning committee needs to, we would bring that up and then schedule a meeting for learning committee.
I mean, it's
Nick's
our-
happy to meet. I mean, he doesn't have a problem with it, right, Nick?
Right, I guess I just, if anybody has an individual concern that something wasn't discussed enough this year, if you do reflect back on the last year of me being in this position and there's something that you would have preferred a learning committee meeting for, that would just help me understand maybe a little bit of when I should call a learning committee meeting. And I'm not saying right now,
Well, and
but
I'm not
if
either.
anybody
I'm
has
just
an
processing
No,
how it went
I agree.
down
I mean,
and what it looked like.
I just
and
think the board members have to be more
crabby.
No, I mean, express their interest in having a meeting, and then if it's justifiable, all 3 of the members of that committee will agree, and then they'll have to provide it. Because it's our responsibility to know what we're voting on. And if you're questioning, I mean, I would think any one of us can call the,
Request, not
request the
call.
meeting, and then if the members of that committee are unanimous, or 2 out of 3, I would believe that forms a meeting, so.
However, I feel like that's almost too late. Like, some of these issues would have been discussed prior to them
Yeah,
getting
this-
to the meeting. So
right.
then all of a sudden, we're like, oh, wait, full board, there's an issue, let's go backwards into a committee meeting.
But-
So I don't know. That's where Nick or Sean, they have to preemptively say, okay, we should probably meet on this.
But also.
Parkview schedule.
But also.
That's something that probably should have been in committee at least once, because
But
So we-
also with the
Just
2
because.
meetings, the first meeting, we're going over the items, and if someone feels that we don't have the details or whatever at that, then I would think that would be a good meeting to say,
Sure.
let's put together a meeting later that week or the next week before the,
Yeah, we used to do that all the
Board
time, is
meeting,
put things
yeah.
back into committee.
So
That
I
would come to the
think
board.
if you look at tonight's agenda, if the learning committee people had a concern
Yeah.
about the 7th and 8th grade literacy plan, then you would say to Nick, hey, we should meet about this before you bring it back for approval. Another good example is the health insurance information that Tom shared tonight. That's not a pressing need to meet anytime in the next month or two because our renewal's not up for a while, but I would think that might be a committee topic. Another one that's coming up, since Erica mentioned the Parkview schedule, and there were some concerns about that, we have a high school schedule change. So a learning committee, finance, it can go a number of different ways. Maybe people want to meet about that, or maybe more so the changes that will come with the graduation requirements. That's going to be coming to the table sometime in the near future. That could be a committee meeting to start that discussion.
I do think that, we likely could schedule some learning committee meetings to do some of these updates rather than spending significant amount of time at a board meeting with everybody, update on Parkview schedule, update on high school schedule, update on course requirements, update, and it would be allow for maybe a little more discussion at a committee meeting. So maybe we could consolidate some of those updates instead of loading the board agenda with some of those updates, go to the committee meetings and then forward the actionable things like the course requirements or the graduation requirements onto the full board. I don't know. I'm open to whatever the board wants to do.
And
I
that's
vote,
what
I
we-
vote for way more learning committee meetings.
Thanks, Craig.
And Craig
So,
maybe move to learning committee next
we
time.
are ready, willing, and able to meet when you guys decide that, or if we think that we should meet too. We as administrators.
Okay. That's good. Okay.
So we had a motion.
Oh, wait, we got citizens' comments? Hey, okay. We have a motion to move into executive session. I'll second it. Jerry, can you do roll call?
Todd excused. Erica?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Jill?
Yes.
Jerry, yes.